Hey, it's Wolvie. I'm back. Like and subscribe if you want to see me drop this comic. This is footage from my live streams I do. Tap in if you want to see how I make these comics. And yes, I am making a manga in the hood. I've been doing the comic hyper stream on a nightly basis for a week now. And during a couple streams, there was gunshots during the night, which gave me an idea for a clickbaity title. Now, I'm not really a hood dude. I'm not necessarily a hood dude. I just grew up in the hood for a lot of my life and lived here for most of it. I moved around a lot as I was younger, so sometimes I lived on nicer blocks. The way my city works is, you could have a section of the city that's hood, but there's always it's kind of patchwork. You could be on one block and it's nice Victorian homes, and then the next block is the PJs. And so I bounced around a lot, so I saw a little bit of everything. Anyway, this video isn't gonna be all about the hood. I'm just kind of trying to set the stage for my follow-up video, because I am gonna be trying to self-publish and distribute in my hood, which I'll talk about more in the follow-up video once I get feet in ground and product in hands. Quick little bit about me. I've been doing comics on and off since middle school. I'm a fan of all types of comics, manga, American comics. I'm just a fan of comics as a medium, and I think they're, one of the most accessible ways of telling stories. And I love them. I've been in the city now for several years, working all types of jobs and doing all types of stuff artistically and trying out different things, honing my skills, struggling, networking, all that stuff. I released my first comic on Webtoons around 2018. I believe that was around the time Comicsgate was happening, and it just seemed like the whole industry was falling apart, and my comic didn't really have any reception. It was pretty much non-existent, so those two things combined caused me to stop pursuing comics seriously for a while. But now I'm back, and I've been researching and looking for other comic creators, other manga creators, from a similar background as me, American or black, and I've been excited to find there's a lot of us out here making comics, and I'm also disappointed at all the conflict I see on the scene. Overall, I'm impressed though with the dedication I'm seeing of these creators and keeping their series consistent, putting their stuff on multiple platforms, and just the overall dedication to approaching it as a business and approaching it professionally is very impressive. I'd like to commend all the indie manga creators that are putting stuff out. So at first I was gonna do this YouTube channel as manga review, indie manga reviews, and I was reading a lot of manga on Manga Plus by Shueisha Medibang, and I have a lot of reviews in the hard drive, and it got to a point I did it for like a week, and by the end of the week my head was hurting. I just couldn't read any more of the stories on there. It was they just weren't that good. There were some good ones, but when you have to slog through so much barely readable and understandable stuff, it gets hard to tell what's actually good or what's just all right in comparison. But to the point, most of the black characters I saw, pretty much all of them didn't seem as if they were portrayed as black characters. They kind of seemed just like they're just a character with 30% screen tone on. And I'm not here to say what's black, what's not black, because me as a light-skinned person, I've always gotten that in my life, just not black enough and having to prove myself. And I know that black is different for all of us, but that's part of the point of portraying your characters with blackness, is you're expressing what being black is to you. For instance, almost all of the manga take place in high school. And there were several instances where there was a black character in the high school, and they were treated exactly like all the other characters, and they used words like senpai, sensei. And if it's a Japanese school, that makes sense, but some of these high schools were in fictional settings that weren't Japan. And in a real case scenario, that wouldn't be the case. If there's one black kid at a school of all Japanese kids, there would be some type of dynamic there, and you're kind of missing a lot of good interactions and a inherent theme of that scenario. An inherent theme of that scenario would be being the different person in a homogenous group. If you don't touch on that at all, then what is the point of there being one black person in a all Japanese school? You might as well have made them all Japanese if that one black person isn't going to express any blackness, and there's no commentary or dialogue addressing that dynamic. I haven't read many manga that depict any shared black experiences, and I'm not talking about BLM, I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking about the simple joys of life, the types of food we eat, go to the store, what type of stuff you get before you go to school, whatever your experience was as a black person. And we're missing out on a huge market and a huge audience base by doing this. Being black is different for everyone. Being human is a different experience for everyone. And that's the beauty in showing what it means to you, and it inherently makes your work unique. I'm using the word black, I'm talking to my black people because that's what I am. But this applies to anybody, whatever your background is. You're going to find the most success connecting with an audience if you speak on your shared experiences, your shared interests, your shared morals. And so you have to, connect with your community, connect with your peers to find what those things are and what those common denominators are, and explore them through your work. I think where us comic artists kind of get messed up at a lot of times is we meet other comic artists and we're connecting with them on a comic level, on a fan level, oh, I really like Berserk, oh, who do you really like? I like Katsuhiro Otomo, and we're talking about influences and this and that, and that's great, that's important, but what's more important is connecting on a personal level, what are your beliefs, what are your challenges, what are your convictions? That's how we find out what our peers are going through. What are the similarities? I know there's a real disconnect between, character design and the real people that you see in your life, in your daily lives, because I had it when I grew up and I was trying to learn how to draw characters and trying to emulate different comics and styles I would see. I would draw the characters I saw depicted in those comics and draw them that way. And it took me a while to come to terms with what really makes a character relatable, and that I have to draw from characters in my real life, people I really know, because there's character archetypes in the real world. We all fall into some type of archetype, and some people we know are stronger depictions of those archetypes. When I was around, I think I was 18, 19, I started drawing from life more. I started going to parks and started drawing people, and I started doing portraits, and that's when my character design and my characters just started feeling way more human and way more knowable. You want an audience to feel like they kind of know your character just from looking at them. You can tell a lot about a person that you walk by if you just look at them and pay attention. And especially if you give them eye contact, you can see a lot about someone through their eyes. And this is a gripe not just with indie manga, it's kind of a general gripe with concept art and illustration in general. I feel like we've been drawing, I love fantasy, I love sci-fi, all that shit's great, but we've been drawing way too much from it and not drawing enough from real life You kind of have to mix the two to make it relatable, because there's big chunks of audiences that aren't into just cool stuff, mech suit coolness. That doesn't hit with older women. That doesn't hit with a huge market. But when you make characters that are relatable, you can still do all of that stuff. But if you have a relatable character that different audiences can get with, and then ideally in a big hit, you'll have little characters that every audience can identify with, but not empty characters that are just for diversity's sake. So you can't write what you don't know. You can't write if you don't know someone's about like a culture or ethnicity or a background or a way of life. You can't really write that character. You need to go do research, and research isn't just looking stuff online. That means talking to people, meeting those people, because that's what a character really is. It's a person. It's a real person. So if you're doing research for your story and you're not talking to real people, you're not doing research. Unless all of your characters are all like based off of you, which isn't a bad thing, because we all contain multitudes. You can base your characters off of different aspects of yourself, and that's a good way of self-exploratory writing. But if you want to do, if you're writing more characters that are outside of your area of expertise, you have to talk to people. You have to do research. Like what's coming in mind now is 21st Century Boys and Naoki Urasawa, and how he has different characters from different walks of lives on these thrillers, and he depicts them professionally. A lot of his characters are in the story because of their profession, and he does a lot of research, and all of his characters seem so believable because not only are they believable on the professional front, but he always shows their personal backstory and why they have conviction in their profession. That's how I approach finding an audience, and I think that would be beneficial for other people as well. It's how the manga industry was built and how it's become such a strong system. It's kind of how any successful entertainment industry is built, by catering to the audience and finding out what they want and expressing their experiences. I mean, that's why the American comic book industry fell apart, is they alienated all of their audience for the sake of diversity, and they just changed characters around and storylines, and instead of just allowing diverse creators to figure out what will be successful in their communities, they kind of just started from the top level and just force-fed it into their audience that they already had, instead of like developing a natural audience and developing natural black characters. Because stories, they have to kind of be black on a conceptual level. It can't just be a platitude. It's just a platitude if you just put a black girl in the Tony Stark Iron Man. It's like the whole concept of Iron Man is built off of a white man's wealth, and he's like a billionaire playboy type thing, and now it's a black girl, and it's like, that's not really her story. It's not really like, you could have actually wrote a good story about a black girl and a black girl's background. I don't know. And you're kind of killing the character by doing that. This is off the point. The flip side of this is that there's other audiences that are very, very interested in specific aspects of American culture. For instance, in Japan, the home of manga, there's a subculture of people that really want to have black hair, and there's subcultures that are obsessed with all different stuff. There's subcultures in Japan that are obsessed with American skateboarding. There's all different types of, but you can't reach those audiences if you're not really expressing yourself, your side of life. In reality, black manga is pretty much an untapped market in Japan. There haven't been no black manga hits. There hasn't been any indie manga that have been big enough to make the industry look over here. For one, you need a hit, or like a really good story, a really solid piece that casts a broad enough net for you to have a big audience, true to your experience and your culture, your values. For me, I have a black mixed race experience in living in the city, so that's my experience. But for you, it'll be something different. And if you feel like you don't know what to draw on from experience, maybe you need some more experience. Yet to read a manga that felt like a black experience, and I think that would do very well. I think there's a big, massive audience for that, and I think that we should try to capitalize on that. The indie manga I've read, most of them feel like a cheap imitation, which leads me to believe, I can only imagine, a Japanese person who reads manga, tries out some of these for size, some of these indie manga or Western manga, it probably comes off even worse, as a worse imitation. And it might even feel slighted by it. I don't know. Like, black people have created so much creative gold, and I haven't seen that translated to manga yet, and we just need to put ourselves and our story and our souls into the work to make that gold. My black people right now, but this goes for everybody. If you want to find an audience, you need to focus on your life experience, the shared experiences that you have with the said audience, and how you're gonna engage them in that way. If you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate you. If you want to know how distribution and production goes for me, subscribe for the follow-up video. If you're a comic artist as well, comment below if you agree or disagree. Let me know if you have experiences with your subject matter and its reception with your audience. Stay up, stay creative. Peace out. Also, P.S. I'm just getting back into reading manga, so I haven't read it all. So if you have suggestions, let me know. I'm not trying to act like I've read it all. I'm down to read whatever y'all suggest. I'll probably do reviews on it too. I'm not ready to upload the reviews yet.